The relationship has started and everything seems to be going. But then you get to this point where you have your worries. Is he truly interested? Is he really into me? Is he ready for the long walk? And your mind is racing, you're afraid. You wonder if it's really going to work out at the end of the day. Well, these are normal worries that every lady should have in a relationship. Yes, of course, we have a bunch of deceivers out there, people who will make you feel at home, make you feel good. But if you really care to know, there are cues that will let you know that he is really into you. Well, the list is inexhaustive, but I will attempt to share a few of key things that guys do when they are really interested in a lady. I'll be right back. Adebayo Ilupeju here. It's the Love Laboratory. A guy who is genuinely interested in you will take his time to study you and know probably maybe your do's and your don'ts. And when I say this, I'm not saying it from an academic point of view, but more from an emotional point of view. The places you like to visit, the things that you like to do, and then those things that actually turn you off. They are not things to be found out in a day, and they are not things that you are going to talk about over dinner. They are things that are properly, should I say, investigated or paid attention to. So, a guy who has been able to find his way to understand that you wouldn't have a meal after 7 p.m. without you necessarily saying it, or a guy who knows that you do not stay a minute late when it is time to get to work. These are little cues that people see in guys that reassures them. It's not to say that it's a cast in stone situation. In some cases, you have guys that have all these things perfectly in place. Probably they've played on too many women over the years and they have mastered the art of winning a woman's heart. But a guy who deliberately does this, of course you may have your own mechanism for detecting who is real and who is not real. But trust me, a guy who has taken his time to study you to the level of you cannot afford to stay a minute late to work, and you are often engrossed in your job, has paid so much attention, he doesn't necessarily have to be with you in the office. If you have any guy who is able to detect this within weeks of your relationship, I think it's a guy that is worth probably letting a bit of your guards down for. Oh, he calls you during your supposed lunch hour. You didn't tell him when lunch hour will be, but a reasonable guy would probably know that after staying 3-4 hours at work, you're likely to have a break. And if you are not the type that usually like to go for a break, and your partner decides to tell you that you need to take a break once in a while at work. If you're not the type that also eats at lunch hour, he is the kind of guy that tells you, oh, you could just have a drink, an orange juice or any kind of juice of your choice. The kind of guy who takes his time to understand these dynamics or suggests them is most likely genuinely interested in you because he's now concerned about your well-being. He wants to check in on you while you're at work. He wants to see how the work is going. He wants to know if the pressure is much or the pressure is not there. A guy who does this without necessarily appearing to be a snoopy kind of a guy or probably not constituting a nuisance. There are ways these things are done that assures you that this is just a kind gesture of trying to see how well you're doing in your space. If he's not able to reach out to you, he probably sends you a text message, and that does it. So, not a lot of guys have this time, especially if they have their own jobs that they are attending to as well. If they are usually engrossed in what they do, it might be tough for any guy to be able to have a routine to check in on people, and then probably even instinctively, when it is not on routine, you just recall that, oh, how is this person feeling? Somebody that randomly checks on you like that has more than just the stick around intentions, and so you need to really watch out and see that probably you appreciate that little bit. Again, the type that makes himself look good at every opportunity. He's grooming, he does his grooming at the right time. He tries as much as possible not to let you see him look shabby. It means he wants to make a good impression on you. He wants to look good to you all the time. He's thinking about you. And then the ones that can actually tell within a very short space of time what your best colors are. Or the type that really ask you, what do you like to do? Where do you like to go? How do you like your vacations? Somebody who makes an effort to plan. It might not be the expensive restaurant type, but the type that wants to tell you ahead that how about we go for dinner on Saturday, and it's just on the Tuesday here. If you have a guy who makes plans to be with you, who prepares himself within his limit to take you to a nice place, quiet place, and of course if he's actually asking to take you to an expensive place, well, there's nothing bad in going to expensive restaurants. He is a guy that is genuinely interested in you would ask about your profession, your career goals, and will possibly make recommendations on how to achieve your goals in these areas, in both career and in life. A guy who is interested in you would definitely pay attention to this, and because he appreciates your boundaries, he's not going to be fostering opinions on you. Oh, remember the last time that you told him you were a bit tired because the workload was too much for you? He is the kind of guy that tries to understand what makes your workload heavy and then advises you on reasonable ways to lighten the burden of work. A guy who genuinely wants to be with you would go an extra mile to understand what your challenges are, and he will make recommendations on how to resolve them. Now, these things don't come exactly the way I'm reeling them out, because the guy wants to present himself in a natural way as much as possible. He doesn't want to be all over you, yet he is all over you. A guy who wants to respect your space, but at the same time tries to know what's happening in your life, is genuinely interested. Of course, this takes a bit of discernment, because we have the wolves in sheep's clothing all over the place as well. Identifying a guy that is genuinely interested in you can be daunting, and at the same time a very, very simple task. It's just about you paying attention and knowing what to appreciate, and also knowing how to tell that, oh, this is a no-go area, and you watch out for how much they appreciate the fact that you told them and how much they respect that. It's always about courtesy, really. How courteous to these people? How much courtesy do they pay when they're around you? Do they respect your people? Or the guy who calls you at every opportunity, he has a party, he wants you to meet his friends, he wants to take you to the office party or the office dinner, or he's making you meet his family. Most of the times, most guys who go to this length are guys who would really want to stick around for a very long time. If you have found this very interesting, please do share to your networks, like, and subscribe to the channel so that you don't get to miss any of this. And if you have a word or two to share, why not just leave a comment so that others can also learn from your wealth of knowledge. I am Adebayo Olupeju. I'll see you next time on the Love Laboratory.